Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad-Bhāgavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 22, The Marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahūti. So we are in the section where Kardama Muni is accepting hands of Devahūti. This is called as Pani Grahana. And he is accepting the proposal. Text 16. Kāmasya bhūyān naradevadesya पुत्र्या समान्याय विदौ प्रतीतः क एव ते तनयां नाद्रियेत स्वयैव कान्त्या क्षिपतीम्यं श्रियम्.
Let your daughter's desire for marriage, which is recognized in the Vedic scriptures, be fulfilled. Who would not accept her? Who would not accept her hand? She is so beautiful that her bodily luster alone she excels the beauty of her ornaments. Purport. Kardama Muni wanted to marry Devahūti in the recognized manner of marriage prescribed in the scriptures. As stated in the Vedic scriptures, the first class process is to call the bride groom to the home of the bride and hand her to him in charity with a dowry of necessary ornaments, gold, furniture, and other household paraphernalia. This form of marriage is prevalent among higher class of Hindus even today and is declared in the Shastras to confer great religious merit on the bride's father. To give a daughter in charity to a suitable son-in-law is considered to be one of the pious activities of a householder. There are 8 forms of marriage mentioned in the scriptures, Manusmruti, but only one process of marriage, Brahma or Rajasika marriage, is now current. Other kinds of marriage, by love, by exchange of garlands, or by kidnapping the bride, are now forbidden in this age, in this Kali age. Formerly, Kshatriyas would at their pleasure kidnap a princess from another royal house, and there would be a fight between the Kshatriya and the girl's family. Then, if the kidnapper was the winner, the girl would be offered to him for marriage. Even Krishna married Rukmini by that process, and some of his sons and grandsons also married by kidnapping. Krishna's grandsons kidnapped Duryodhana's daughter, which caused a fight between the Kuru and the Yadu families. Afterward, an adjustment was made by the elderly members of the Kuru family. Such marriages were current in bygone ages, but at the present moment they are impossible because the strict principles of Kshatriya life have practically been abolished. Since India has become dependent on foreign countries, the particular influences of her social orders have been lost. Now, according to the scriptures, everyone is a Kshudra. The so-called Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas have forgotten their traditional activities, and in the absence of these activities, they are called Kshudras. It is said in the scriptures, Kalau Kshudra Sambhavaha. In the age of Kali, everyone will be like Kshudras. The traditional social customs are not followed in this age, although formerly they were followed strictly. Hare Krishna.
So Kardama Muni, he accepts the proposal. Let your daughter's desire for marriage be fulfilled. Who would not accept her? This desire is recognized in the Vedic scriptures. And apart from that, she is so beautiful that her bodily luster alone excels the beauty of her ornaments. So generally, ornaments are worn. One will wear the ornament to become beautiful. But here Kardama says, Devahūti is extremely beautiful, that because of being on her, the ornaments are looking even more beautiful. It's not that ornaments are increasing beauty of Devahūti. Devahūti is increasing beauty of the ornaments. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Kardama Muni wanted to marry Devahūti in the recognized manner. And the recognized manner is that the father will come and he will perform the Kanyadan along with the the necessary other paraphernalia. Now here we have to understand one thing. What is the concept of dowry in marriage in the is that in the previous times the daughter would not get the share of, rather would say the daughter would get the share of father's property in the form of dowry, right? So then later the things got differentiated, things got deteriorated, and now we have equal share, and both have their own pros and cons. It is not that one system is to be criticized over another. So, and whatever is happening in Kali Yuga is very, very essential. Otherwise, people have lost completely the idea of being elder brother, taking care of the family. All those things have just become very, very degraded. But when we hear about dowry in the marriages in the previous times, please do not look at that word dowry from the 2025 context. Okay. So today, the concept of in the context of dowry and hunda badi and those things, they're far different than father very lovingly giving a part of her property to the daughter who is now leaving the house and who has got married. Okay, so let us not project 2025 concept of dowry on the wings. Okay, that's why there is this very pious for the the Shastras confer the great religious merits to the bride's father, Kanyadan, right? To give daughter in charity to a suitable son-in-law, it's considered to be one of the pious activities of a householder. And this was the marriage that Kardama Muni accepted. Prabhupada says that there are 8 forms of marriages, different marriages. But currently, only this particular marriage is prevalent. Brahma or Rajasika marriage is now current. Other forms of marriage, like love by the exchange of garlands, by kidnapping the bride, they are forbidden in the age of Kali. Now, these marriages were prevalent just 5,000 years ago. Even Lord Krishna married Rukmini like this. Of course, Rukmini wrote a letter for to be kidnapped, so that is also not to be neglected. Samba married, we discussed yesterday, Lakshmana like this. And bygone ages, but in the present moment, these are impossible because people have fallen from the standard of varnashrama. There is no more real kshatriya which is existing. Generally, people are born as Kshudra, Kalau Shudra Sambhava, and for the absence of the suitable samskaras, they raise themselves and die themselves as Shudra. So the activities of a Kshatriya, which are like, the powerful Kshatriyas that we have seen in the past, or in the very near past also what we have seen very recently, like Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj, or Peshwa Bajirao, or to speak of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, Maharana Pratap. So these were extremely, everyone has degraded, and more and so as the Kali Yuga will advance, this degradation will be very, very fast. Therefore, Prabhupada quotes Bhagavatam here. This is Bhagavatam verse. Kalau Shudra Sambhava. That Kali Yuga, everybody will be almost like a Shudra. And therefore, the traditional social customs will not be followed in this age. And therefore, we have a very specific one type of marriage, which is now being so allowed in Kali Yuga. We know that shloka we have discussed many times. Ashvamedham gavalabhambam sannyasam palapaitram Devarena Sutopaktim Kalau Panchu Vivarjayat. So there are certain things which are Vivarjayat to be avoided in the age of Kali. Text 17. Yam Harma Prushte Kanadangri Shobham Vikreditam Kandukavilharakshim Vishvasurna Vishwavasurna Nya Patatat Svabhadvimana. Translation?
Translation: I have heard that Vishwavasu, the great Gandharva, his mind stupefied with infatuation, fell from his airplane after seeing your daughter playing with a ball on the roof of the palace. For she was indeed beautiful, with her tinkling ankle bells and her eyes moving to and fro. Purport: it is understood that not only at the present moment, but in those days also there were skyscrapers. Herein we find the word Harmai Prishte. Harmai means a very big palatial building. Swa-Vimanat means from his own airplane. It is suggested that private airplanes or helicopters were also current in those days. The Gandharva Vishwavasu, while flying in the sky, could see Devahūti playing ball on the roof of the palace. Ball playing was also current, but aristocratic girls would not play in a public place. Ball playing and other such pleasures were not meant for ordinary women and girls. Only princesses like Devhuti could indulge in such sports. It is described here that she was seen from the flying airplane. This indicates that the palace was very high, otherwise, how could one see her from an airplane? The vision was so distinct that Gandharva Vishwavasu was bewildered by her beauty, and by hearing the sound of her ankle bangles and being captivated by the sound and beauty, he fell down. Kardama Muni mentioned the incident as he had heard it. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Now Kardama, he narrates one beautiful instance that was very famous at that time. Once upon a time, Vishwavasu, the great Gandharva, he is not ordinary Gandharva, he was one of the chieftain of the Gandharvas. His mind, captivated with infatuation, fell from his aeroplane after seeing your daughter, Devahūti, playing with a ball on the roof of the palace. For she was indeed beautiful with her tinkling ankle bells and her eyes moving to and fro. So, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that having a skyscraper building is not a modern phenomenon. We have seen this time and again that the history of the universe practically repeats for itself, right? So it is not that the skyscrapers were invented in the last 100 years or something like that. No. So here we can say neither having a personal private jet is a new phenomenon. The very word Vimana comes here. In fact, there is Vimana Upanishad, which was taken to Germany, and further I don't want to say anything. But the very person who was the first person who was into flying of the Vimana was a Indian, Maharashtrian person. He did that in Chowpatty, Bombay Chowpatty. And, much before the Wright brothers, they are doing this experiment. If you go on Wikipedia and search for this, Vimana and India, you will find a very, very leftist, diluted, article about this brother, this personality. So Vimana is not very... In fact, on the temple place, you will always have one Vimana. On the Gopuram of the temple, there is a Vimana Kshetra. Vimana will always be there on the Gopuram of the temple. Every temple, there is a Kshetra, especially if you go to South India, there will be this Vimana. So there was a skyscraper building, which Manu was living in a big, huge palace, which was like a skyscraper palace. And on the top of the building, on the terrace, Devahūti was engaged in playing the ball sport. And as a child, the youthful girl, she was playing like that, her eyes moving here and there, beautiful ankle bangling, and there was this Vishwavasu was flying in the aeroplane. Okay, now those aeroplanes are different everywhere. Just here about Pushpaka, that simply by chanting of the mantra, you don't need the runway, you don't need the fuel there. There is no hijacking and this and that, right? So although Pushpaka was hijacked from Kubera by Ramana, that is another thing. So, and when he saw this beautiful devotee, so Prabhupada says, look at this point, somebody is playing the ball on the terrace, and person sitting in the Vimana could very vividly see the beauty of this personality. That means this terrace, this palace was extremely high, very, very tall palace it was, like, right? It was a skyscraper, literally a skyscraper palace. And so the skyscraper is not new, neither the lady girls playing with the ball is not new, neither Vimana is new. It is all there mentioned in pages of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Right. But Prabhupada says the ball playing was very common in those days also, but it was especially reserved for the the Kshatriya girls, the Rajakanyas, who would play not in the public domain, but privately. They would have their own temple. And this Vishwavasu, generally, Gandharva will never get attracted to human, because just like you will not get attracted to monkey, a she monkey, or a she goat, because it is considered below your dignity to get attracted to and get married to something like that. Of course, in Kali Yuga now anything and everything is possible, but Gandharva to get attracted to human is like below their dignity. But this Vishwavasu was so attracted with devotee that he just kept on looking at devotee. His aeroplane went ahead and he just fell down. Okay, fell down doesn't mean that he just fell down on the ground, dhadam, and had some fractured leg or hand. Not like that. Gandharvas can fly, but he missed his aeroplane and just start falling down. He suddenly realized, and then he again flew back to his aeroplane. And this instance was very famous as the beauty of Devahūti. Kardama Muni knew this instance. He had heard about this, right? And so that you can see that although Kardama Muni, so via media of Nārada Muni and other sages who are traveling, they knew this instance and it was heard. And now same Devahūti, Kardama says, how I will refuse such a personality. So this is the beauty of Devahūti is being mentioned by Kardama. Text 18. Tam prarthayantim lalanam lalamam asevita shri charanairadrashtam Vatsam manorucha padai swasaram konanumanyeta buddho bhitayam.
Translation: What wise man would not welcome her, the very ornament of womanhood, the beloved daughter of Svāyambhuva Manu and sister of Uttanapada? Those who have not worshipped the gracious feet of the goddess of fortune cannot even perceive her, yet she has come of her own accord to seek my hand. Purport: Kardama Muni praised the beauty and qualification of Devahūti in different ways. Devahūti was actually the ornament of all ornamented beautiful girls. A girl becomes beautiful by putting ornaments on her body, but Devahūti was more beautiful than the ornaments. She was considered the ornament of the ornamented beautiful girls. Demigods and Gandharvas were attracted by her beauty. Kardama Muni, although a great sage, was not denizen of the heavenly planets. But it is mentioned in the previous verse that Vishwavasu, who came from heaven, was also attracted by the beauty of Devahūti. Besides her personal beauty, she was the daughter of Emperor Svāyambhuva and sister of King Uttanapada. Who could refuse the hand of such a girl?
Yeah. So Kardama says, what wise man would not welcome her? The very ornament of womanhood. So ornament of womanhood, Lord Krishna explains this in Bhagavad Gita. There are 6 qualities of womanhood. So, and Devahūti possessed all these 6 qualities, and especially the exquisite beauty. The beloved daughter of Svāyambhuva Manu and sister of Uttanapada. So, this is being previously mentioned by Manu as well. And Kardama Muni says, yes, I am aware, she is your daughter. Apart from she personally being very, very qualified and extremely beautiful, she is also your daughter and she is sister of Uttanapada. Those who have not worshipped the gracious feet of Goddess of Fortune cannot even perceive her. Yet she has come on her own accord to seek my hand. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that Kardama Muni praised the beauty and qualification of Devahūti in different way. Devahūti was actually extremely qualified. She was ornament of all the ornaments. And by placing on her, the ornaments became beautiful. So not only she was personally very beautiful, she was very beautiful with her qualifications. And that instance of Vishwavasu getting attracted to beauty of Devahūti and falling from the aeroplane. So Prabhupada says here, the demigods and the Gandharvas were attracted to her beauty. And she was also the daughter of a great king, Svāyambhuva Manu, and sister of King Uttanapad, who could refuse the hand of such a girl. So here, Kardama Muni is very graciously accepting and gratefully accepting the hand of Devahūti. Text 19. Ato bhajipye samayena sadhvim yavat tejo vibhruyadatmano me ato dharman paraham sasya mukhyan shukla proktan bohumanye vihistran. Translation.
Therefore, I shall accept this chaste girl as my wife, on the condition that after she bears semen from my body, I shall accept the life of devotional service accepted by the most perfect human beings. That process was described by Lord Viṣṇu. It is free from envy. Purport. Kardama Muni expressed his desire for a very beautiful wife to Emperor Svāyambhuva and accepted the emperor's daughter for marriage. Kardama Muni was in the hermitage practicing complete celibacy as a brahmachari, and although he had the desire to marry, he did not want to be a householder for the whole span of his life because he was conversant with the Vedic principles of human life. According to Vedic principles, the first part of life should be utilized in brahmacharya for the development of character and spiritual qualities. In the next part of life, one may accept a wife and beget children, but one should not beget children like cats and dogs. Kardama Muni desired to beget a child who would be a ray of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should beget a child who can perform the duties of Viṣṇu. Otherwise, there is no need to produce children. There are two kinds of children born of good fathers. One is educated in Krishna consciousness so that he can be delivered from the clutches of Maya in that very life, and the other is a ray of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and teaches the world the ultimate goal of life. As will be described in later chapters, Kardama Muni begot such a child, Kapila, the incarnation of the personality of Godhead, who enunciated the philosophy of Sankhya. Great householders pray to God to send his representatives so that there may be an auspicious moment in human society. This is one reason to beget a child. Another reason is that a highly enlightened parent can train a child in Krishna consciousness so that the child will not have to come back again to this miserable world. Parents should see to it that the child born of them does not enter the womb of a mother again. Unless one can train a child for liberation in that life, there is no need to marry or produce children. If human society produces children like cats and dogs for the disturbance of social order, then the world becomes hellish, as it has in this age of Kali. In this age, neither parents nor their children are trained. Both are animalistic and simply eat, sleep, depend, and gratify their senses. This disorder in social life cannot bring peace to human society. Kardama Muni explains beforehand that he would not associate with the girl Devahūti for the whole duration of his life. He would simply associate with her until she had a child. In other words, sensual life should be utilized only to produce a nice child, not for any other purpose. Human life is especially meant for complete devotion to the service of the Lord. That is the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya. After fulfilling his responsibility to produce a nice child, one should take sannyas and engage in the Paramhansa stage. Paramhansa refers to the most highly elevated perfectional stage of life. There are 4 stages within sannyasa life, and Paramhansa is the highest order. The Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is called the Paramhansa Samhita, the treatise for the highest class of human beings. The Paramhansa is free from envy. In other stages, even in the householder stage of life, there is competition and envy. But since the activities of the human being in the Paramhansa stage are completely engaged in Krishna consciousness or devotional service, there is no scope for envy. In the same order as Kardama Muni about 100 years ago, Thakur Bhaktivinoda also wanted to beget a child who could preach the philosophy and teachings of Lord Chaitanya to the fullest extent. By his prayers to the Lord, he had as his child Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, who at the present moment is preaching the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya throughout the entire world through his bona fide disciples.
Kardama says, therefore I shall accept this chaste girl as my wife, till the time she bears a son, and then he will move on for the sannyasa ashram, which is recommended by Lord Viṣṇu. Ato dharman paramahamsa mukhyan. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that Kardama Muni expressed the desire to have a very beautiful wife, but he was living a life of complete celibacy. And when he is now awarded wife, so here one can see, even if one has a desire, and when one desires something, better to approach the Supreme Lordship. The Prabhupada makes this point previously, that whenever you have a desire, better to, of course, you can fulfill the desire by approaching the demigods, but better to approach the Supreme Lord. Why? There are 2 reasons. One reason is, the first thing is, if the desire is not good for your ultimate end, it will not be fulfilled by the Supreme Lord. That is not the case with the Devata. Devatas are bound to fulfill the desire, whether the desire is good for them or bad for them, or even bad for the Devata. So it is like the shopkeeper who is bound to sell a cigarette to the child if the child has money. The shopkeeper will not give any, it's like a vending machine. You put in nothing. Second thing is that there is a purification of existence when one worships Lord Viṣṇu. And the third thing is that if the desire is legitimate, the desire will be fulfilled far beyond one's expectation. Kardama simply wanted to have a good wife, and now he is receiving hands of Devahūti, who is being sought by the demigods and even the Gandharvas like Vishwavasu, who fell from the aeroplane. Right. So these are the 3 points why one should approach the Supreme Lord. And therefore that verse is there. Akamo sarva kamo va moksha kamo udaradhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Right. Further, Srila Prabhupada explains that the first part is called as brahmacharya life of celibacy. The second part is grihastha. And now here Kardama Muni is entering the grihastha ashram. But it is not necessary. So Prabhupada says there are 2 kinds of children can be born to the good father. Educated in Krishna consciousness and those who are great preachers of Krishna consciousness. Like Kapila, okay, who is the Supreme Lord himself, is the ray of the Supreme Lord appearing here. And therefore, to become parents is a responsible position. Otherwise, what happens is that if the human society produces children like cats and dogs, there will be a disturbance of the social order, and that's what you will see a particular cult is just producing children like cats and dogs, and there's like war around, and the world becomes literally a hellish place. And this is one of the symptoms of age of Kali, that he will associate with Devahūti only till his tapasya is done, and only till she has a good child, and later he wants to dedicate his life to take sannyas. Prabhupada writes, after fulfilling his responsibility to produce a nice child, one should take sannyas and engage in the perfectional Paramahamsa stage. So taking sannyas literally means one should focus one's life on preaching Krishna consciousness. This is the core activity of sannyas. It has certain, even yoga one becomes a sannyasi. And it is not just changing of the clothes and taking a danda like that it is. But there is no dearth, there is no say to know of the activity of sannyas. What is the activity of sannyas? There are two activities of sannyas. The first one is reading the Paramahamsa Samhita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, studying Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which is called as Paramahamsa Samhita, which is applicable to those who are beyond the realm of envy, nirmat saranam satam. And the other thing is, one should preach vigorously the message of Krishna consciousness. Bhaktivinoda Thakur wanted to have such a child, Prabhupada writes. And then he was awarded with such a child, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. And Prabhupada says, who at the present moment is preaching the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya throughout the entire world through his bona fide disciples. Plural there. So Srila Prabhupada is giving all the credit to his spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And all over world preaching, Prabhupada says, through his bona fide disciples. It is not only through me. Okay. It is through all the disciples. Prabhupada says, me and my God brothers. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai.
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Projit. Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhu. Hare Krishna,
Prabhupada.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yoga. Question.